What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this POV review by Autobahn. My name is Max, and today we are taking you around the Cupra Born VZ. Now, Martijn went to Spain a couple months ago to drive this car, to drive at the introduction, and he absolutely loved it. And when Martijn came back, he said to me, Max, you have to drive it. It is so much fun. I remained skeptical because, well, look at it. I don't think it's a particularly good looking car. It is very narrow and high and short, and it's a bit of a weird thing to look at. But he said, believe me, it is more fun than you think, and the car is better than you think. So we decided to find out by doing a long-term test. We've been driving this car for 3 months now. Every day we've used it like we use any other car, and that is the first time for us doing that with an electric car as well. So this car had to do a lot, and I'm happy to report it did everything really, really well, and I actually quite like it. So today I'm going to show you around it. I'll show you the spec. Martijn has already done a full review, so I'm not going to go too in-depth in the car, but we're going to talk about the pros and cons, the good things, the bad things that we found out driving it for 3 months. And after that, we'll take it for a drive towards the Autobahn for an Autobahn blast. So I'll do a quick walk around for the spec. This is dark forest, a special color for the VZ version. So the VZ is the fastest version. It stands for veloz, which means speed in Spanish. And this color is specific to that car. You can get one more option that is specific to the VZ, which is the wheel. This is not that wheel. This is the 20-inch thunderstorm wheel, but you can have the 20-inch tornado wheel as an option with more sticky tires, and that is actually a forged wheel that saves 3 kilos per wheel, which is pretty cool. So we get some copper details around the car for the VZ. Of course, it's a bit more aggressive, a bit more sporty at the front, but as you can see, it's a bit of a strange looking thing. It's a bit like it is a hatchback, of course, but it's very high and narrow, and that is something you feel when you drive the car as well. Now, why does it drive so well? We've got a retuned spring and damper setup at the front, and we've got thicker anti-roll bars with the new setup for the VZ. And at the rear we've got new springs and dampers for the VZ that are specific to this car. And of course we've got rear wheel drive. Martijn said all-wheel drive, one motor at the rear, one motor at the front, but that is not true. It is one motor at the rear, 326 horsepower, 545 newton meters of torque, and drum brakes. Look at that. That is so crazy. Drum brakes. At the front you've got like proper discs, but brakes are not my favorite thing on this car. They are, well, poorly judged. The change between regeneration and actual braking is very, very noticeable, and the rate at which you brake going through the pedal is not the same. So you start braking, and then you end up at like actual brakes instead of regeneration, and you have to brake harder than you think. And after 3 months I've not gotten used to that. So yeah, it's just something you have to live with. Now, the shape also means that it's quite a practical car because it's relatively small, but it's also relatively high. So that means that you actually have proper headroom, also here in the rear. And of course you get a gorgeous view of this bucket seat, the sabled carbon-backed bucket seat with sort of a blue tint. Looks absolutely stunning, and the seat is just incredible. But so that seat on the left is actually my position. So let me just get in, and I can actually, I mean, it's not super spacious, but I am very tall, and believe me, if I can sit here like this, basically anyone can sit here, which is great. And also I have like proper headroom even with the sunroof, so this is not bad. It is a benefit of the weird look. Practicality. Also, you have a pretty decent boot with an extra bit right there for your charging cables, which is also very nice. So this is something I've really liked about this car. It is practical. You can get everything in there. You can get, Martijn has been driving around with his kids as well. So it is very practical, and that is a benefit of the weird shape. I also quite like the rear light design, and you've got a little diffuser there as well for the VZ to make it a little bit more sporty. So let's get in because it's hella cold. And when you get in, you notice that the seat is very good. Super supportive, beautiful bolstering, nice and high. The shoulders are nice and high as well. So you're just hugged by the seat, which is great. I'm just going to turn on the climate and stuff because it's so freaking cold. Yeah, heated seats, heated steering wheel, both really nice. And I also quite like the fact that you just get in, you hit the brake pedal, you do that, and you're ready to go. I think that is quite handy actually, and I've gotten used to that over the last 3 months. The fact that you just get in and go. You don't have to warm up the engine, you just get in and go, and that is something I really like. And one of the highlights of this car, and I think one of the better selling points, is the interior. The materials are really good. I like the design. It feels special, more special than most EVs, I would say, in this category. And I really think that they've done a great job, you know, setting it apart from others with this copper accent around the car. And yeah, it's all quite soft and squishy, and you've got a little bit of ambient lighting there. You've got this suede around the car, which is also very nice. The steering wheel is nice, heated, which is great, as I said. You've got the 2 driving mode buttons there. This one is just for Cupra mode, and this one controls all the other ones. And yeah, so interior I think is a big plus. Again, that roof makes it feel spacious. It's also wide enough for 2 adults, so it looks very narrow, but it's not bad. The seating position is okay. I would like to sit a little bit lower, but because you sit a little bit too high up, it kind of emphasizes that narrow, high feel of the car. It's not like you're going to tip over, but yeah, it just feels a little bit high and narrow. Steering wheel, although great, also has touch buttons. As you know, this is not a good idea because a lot of the time when you do this or you do that, you hit something with your, like with the palm of your hand, or you just brush it, it doesn't work. Buttons are much better. And the same goes for the touch-based buttons right there. So by clicking the rear word, the lettering there, I can control the rear windows. And then when I switch that off, you can do the front windows. But you sometimes hit that and you accidentally open the rear window, and it's not great. So yeah, touch buttons, not great. So that's it for the interior. It's a nice little car. I think it's a good size. It's just proportionally a little bit weird. Okay, so we've got driver assist menu here, and we've got the ESC. You can choose between on and sport. So we talked to a Cupra development person at an Audi trip a couple months ago, back in October, and he said he thought it was weird that we were not able to turn off the ESC, because he said during development you were able to turn off ESC. I checked Martijn's video, he was also able to turn off the ESC. At some point they decided it's not a good idea, we're just going to have ESC Sport, which is a shame. It really is, because the rear wheel drive idea of the car is what sets it apart for me on a handling perspective. It just means that you can have a little bit of fun with the car, and if they would have just allowed us to turn it off, you would be able to have so much fun with this car in the wet, especially, or when it's like a little bit snowy, or it would have been a hoot. Now it's just a very limiting factor. You can do a little bit of a slide, but it's, yeah, not this time. It's like 1 in 5 times you try it, it allows you to slide it a little bit. So we'll try again here. You turn in and then you just blip the throttle. Now it's very annoying, because it is actually the thing that makes it fun to drive. And this is something I was thinking about in the last few weeks, how am I going to describe this car? Because I know that a lot of you don't like electric cars, and you're not interested in hearing if it is good or if it's just, or if it is fun. You just, you know, you're just not liking the idea. But I always try to look at a car and think, okay, what is it that makes it a good car or a fun car, or what makes me like it or want it? And it can be a lot of different things. It can be the engine sound or the exhaust sound. It can be the way it handles. It can be the interior, the quality of it, just the refinement of the car. And if you do that, you can find something to like in almost every car. I mean, there are a lot of boring cars out there, but the cars we drive, usually you can find something that you like. In this car, it's the rear wheel drive. It is the fact that it feels agile, it feels nimble, it feels eager to turn in. It's more than quick enough with 326 horsepower, but that rear wheel balance is what makes it special. Oh, there we go. See, I was able to do a little bit of a slide there. But that rear wheel balance is what makes this car fun. You can have fun on roundabouts, on 90-degree corners when there are leaves on the road. You are allowed to do a little bit more. No sound. One of the good things about this car, no fake sound. There's hardly any sound, which is great. It's very, very quiet in here. Also when you do highway speeds, it's very good. But coming back to my approach, I think that way, that is how I decided that I like this car, because of the rear wheel balance. I don't like the way it looks. I like the interior, and I do like that rear wheel balance. So range wise, of course, also after 3 months we can, you know, say something about that. So the driving data say that over the last 7,500 kilometers, we've done like, I think maybe we've done like 7,500, something like that in 3 months. 21 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers, and that is just with our normal driving. So we don't drive 90 on the highway, and we just use a car like we use most cars. And with that consumption, at some point when we did a big trip to Wolfsburg, to the VW factory, whoa, see? that is fun. When we did a trip to Wolfsburg, I noticed that the consumption and the indicated range started to be more accurate, and I love that. I love that about it. So it took a while, but now the car is actually indicating a realistic range at this temperature. So it's 0.5 degrees Celsius, so it's very cold. And we have 70%, 266 kilometers after a bit of Autobahn driving already today. And that means that I can actually trust that this is it. And I don't have to be calculating like how fast is this going down and how fast is that going down. So how much actual range do I have and when do I need to charge? Because we've encountered that with electric cars a lot, that this is usually not that accurate. And it is with this car now, which I really like. So with that, let's do a 100 to 200 pull, 70%. We've done one earlier with a little bit better charge, and we did 14.88, which is actually pretty good. But this is good. Performance is perfectly fine. And it actually does 203 kilometers an hour GPS, I think. Maybe a bit more even, because this is 211. That's not bad. Of course, the range goes down very quickly if you do that, but I don't really mind. So our experience with this car that has a WLTP range of 593 kilometers, that we did close to 500 kilometers, like 490, when it was around 16 degrees. And when it's colder, you can do around 400 kilometers, which is fine, absolutely fine. It really is. We use the car like we use any other car. Most of the time, well, almost all of the time, it was just fine. And I was not really expecting that, to be honest. I thought I would be more annoyed by having to charge a lot, but it's actually not that bad. And when you know the range is accurate, you also worry less. So the range anxiety goes down because you know, you're not as worried because you know I'm actually going to be able to do 250, like it says right now. So the other aspect of this car is that it's actually quite affordable. So it's like 49,000 euros in the Netherlands, which is not bad for a car with this amount of equipment and this range. It's also sort of, you know, it's moving in the right direction when it comes to electric hot hatches, I think. The compact size and relatively small footprint mean that it feels agile, it feels eager to turn in. But still, I have to say that on the Autobahn, it also feels pretty steady and solid. So in that respect, they've built a great car. In the respect of electric hot hatches, they're moving in the right direction with this car, but you're never going to have as much fun as with like an old school Leon Cupra, for instance. But they have one thing going for them, and that is the low center of gravity. So even though this car weighs 2,000 kilos, which is kind of insane for a car of this size, all the weight is down low. You've got that battery pack, 79 kilowatt hour, which is a little bit bigger than the regular Born with the bigger range. So that has 77 kilowatt hour. And they used a new type of cell, or a different type of cell, to get to 79 with the same package. Fast charging, 185 kilowatts ideally. I think you're closer to 135, 140 most of the time. And if you charge up at 185, you should be able to do 10 to 80% in like 27 minutes or something like that, which is fine. It's not groundbreaking, but it's fine. Well, I'm quite impressed. See, the brakes completely caught me off guard there. I had to like re-gauge my braking input. But I'm really liking how it's performing here, and I also really like that you have this individual mode and you can go to settings and pull this slide 15 settings all the way to the left for a more comfortable setting than the comfort mode has, which is really nice on longer journeys because it's super comfy. The suspension is one of the party pieces of this car because it's very impressive and it actually punches above its weight. I think it's very good. So I think in conclusion, after 3 months of driving this car, the things that I don't really like are things that are small user interface based things, right? Apart from the looks, which you can change that. But the things like the touch buttons that are just horrible, and they knew that going in. I think it's just not the best solution. The ESC that you can turn off, these are things that are easily fixable, I think. But the things that are the hardest to accomplish, a good range, which is usable in all conditions, also winter conditions, the handling, the performance, these are things that are harder to accomplish, and they've done a great job on that. The only hardware thing I would change are the brakes, because it just does not feel good. It doesn't feel natural. I just drove a Tesla Model 3 as well, and that brake pedal was just so much better. So those are things that they can improve on, but all in all, I'm actually quite impressed, and I've enjoyed driving the car. The thing that does stay with me though, and I thought that this was going to change after 3 months of driving, electric cars still, it just feels like an appliance to me. It feels like a product, like an electronic product that you use and then you replace when you're done using it. I thought that maybe after 3 months I would start bonding a little bit more, or I would hate it, or I would love it, or I would have a little bit more of, I don't know, a connection with it. I like the car. I think it's a good car. I like the package. I like the handling. I like the price. But I just, yeah, it's still a thing to me. And I think if you would drive a Cupra Leon, like a previous of 10 years ago or whatever, after 3 months you would, you know, have more of a bond with the car. I think that is what I feel like separates petrol heads from other normal humans, is the fact that you start looking at cars in a different way. And I have that with so many different cars. It can be a supercar, but it can also be like, we drove a Rolls Royce the other day and I was just absolutely in love with the refinement of that car. But I also love our Volvo V40 T4 with 270,000 kilometers. It's a complete shitbox, but I love it to death. And I don't see that happening with these EVs. It just, they don't do that. They don't tick that box. They don't scratch that itch. It just doesn't happen. So we've learned a lot in 3 months. So big thanks to Cupra for, you know, supplying us with this car. They have not paid us. I saw a couple of comments about this. We don't get paid to do this. It's just, yeah, it's just, we have to find out what it's like to do this before we say it's shit or it's good, right? And I think, yeah, we've done that. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe we'll do this more often in the future if you like it. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. We also have a couple comparative tests coming up. So we have one against the Tesla Model 3 and one against a Golf GTI to sort of do the EV hot hatch versus the combustion hot hatch. So stay tuned for those videos. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. You can subscribe by clicking the big button in the middle. You can also check out this video, this playlist, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.